Let's get this merch. Subscribe to the PDH Network. Alright, y'all see what we got going on here today. As y'all see the thumbnail, y'all read the title under the thumbnail. Yeah, man, today's video is dealing with no other than the paper route ops. And I'm talking about everybody who had their hands in taking out young Dolph at the cookie shop. And that's your boy Govan, Str8 Dropp, his relative JaMarcus Johnson, and Lil Migo cousin Cornelius Smith. But I told y'all, man, once the judge started dishing out those numbers, these dudes was gonna start talking. And that's exactly what JaMarcus is doing. Because again, he feel like y'all not about to pin this whole case on me, when the only thing I did was try to look out for my brother. So based on that, that's the reason why JaMarcus, he's telling his position on the chessboard and everybody else's who assisted in taking out young Dolph at Makita's. Man, I'm talking about JaMarcus. He giving timestamps, dates, and everything to prove he wasn't there the day that young Dolph got sent up. Because he know he wasn't at that meeting that Govan had with Str8 Dropp, Cornelius Smith, Shondell Barnett, Devin Burns, and a couple more other guys that's affiliated to Heavy Camp and CMG. And dealing with that, that's the reason why Yo Gotti, Big Juke, and they guard dog Blac Youngsta, they trying to stay out the way. You ain't been hearing too much from these dudes lately. Because like I told y'all before, man, they know that everybody that's involved with taking out young Dolph, they all getting caught up. Meaning they all gonna get their day behind the wall. You understand? And that's exactly what we seeing happen right now in real time. So I know at first, a lot of folks in Memphis, they didn't have faith in the justice system. And I told y'all, that was mostly dealing with the moves from the Scorpion unit. Because they was doing a lot of underhanded activity to make sure that nobody that was associated with setting up young Dolph ever got caught. But now we starting to see the domino effect take place. And like I said, it trickled down from the Scorpion unit, the main guys that was hiding all type of information and evidence based around young Dolph getting set up. Plus, the Scorpion unit, we all know, they kept that camera footage from the public. Because if the public would have seen the footage based on who actually sent up young Dolph, it would have went totally different. Because a lot of folks would have seen that the Scorpion unit, they sat in that parking lot the whole time watching the play unfold on young Dolph. That's the reason why once the job was finished, they ran right to young Dolph and started grabbing his jewelry. So it's just a lot that went on, but again, I'm happy that justice is finally coming around for young Dolph and his family.
And in cases like these, usually it's the pawns on the chessboard that are going to give up the information first. Reason being is, if they've already done some time in jail already, then they're going to be able to admit to their small part in the crime and then be able to just move on to the next phase of the case without having to worry about higher penalties for being the main people involved in the M1. And so usually your weakest link is going to take down the rest of the squad. And in this case, we have to remember that there were a lot of moving pieces and a lot of different associates involved to make sure that this whole horrendous setup happened to Dolph that day.
Because like I always say, Yo Gotti and his brother Big Juke, they made sure that they had the proper people paid in position to make sure that the play on Paper Route Frank when it's planned. You understand?
And so with that said, they made sure that there were multiple people on different fronts to ensure that Dolph was at the place, verified his location, timing, so that it can all happen the way that it did. But what happens is the main players in the game, they're the ones dishing out the funds and putting together the plan, but they're never the ones doing the actual blicky down. Unfortunately, the ones up in the burner are going to be the ones to do the most time, while the ones in the background funding the whole play are going to be able to get off with a slap on the wrist. So oftentimes, the ones with the least motive to make the play happen are the ones that are going to be punished the most. And we're seeing this play out in real time.
Man, what she basically saying is, the guy that's known in the streets that make a lot of moves, he's not the one that's going to get caught up. It's going to be his little pawns, because he already got the proper pieces set up around him to make sure that nothing comes his way. You understand? And even dealing with that, like I told you guys before, them people know that the CMG and Heavy Camp affiliates is associated with setting up Young Dolph. But at the same time, they won't call it how it is. Meaning, they know that Cornelius Smith, JaMarcus Johnson, Str8 Dropp, and Govin are all affiliated to Heavy Camp and CMG. But like I stated, them people, they won't let it be known. Every time they talk about these dudes, they make them isolated. They make it seem like they not connected like that. Come on, man. These dudes are connected in family and in the streets. They got a long history of getting into criminal activity. That's the reason why at this time, Str8 Dropp, he's not serving time for setting up Young Dolph. He's doing time for a case that he caught prior to Young Dolph being set up at Makita's. That should let y'all know how many people is actually involved in setting up Young Dolph. Because it's not just the regular street cats. I told y'all, man, you got some people up that ladder. Because they was jealous of the moves that Young Dolph was making to not only better himself, but a lot of folks in the community of Cat State. And you got some people up that ladder, they don't want to see you being a Robin to your hood. And y'all got to understand what I mean by that. Take it from the people up that ladder and give it to your guys in the community so they can get on. They don't like that move, man. And Young Dolph, he was known for putting a lot of young cats on. You know what's even more crazy is that even though it's almost been 2 years since Young Dolph's untimely demise, his presence is so strong, it still feels like he here. And that's because you have more people speaking highly of Young Dolph than having beef with him. You understand? And we all know that Young Dolph, he only had beef with a couple cats. And those the same cats that didn't want to see Young Dolph grow. So they was constantly hating on every move that Young Dolph made to not only better himself, but everybody in that community of Cat State.
And we have to also consider all the family members and loved ones of each of these people that are doing time right now for Young Dolph's case. You don't think that they're making phone calls to their relative locked up and saying, you better tell them people what your involvement was? They're going to have you doing the time for the main person up in the burner, and we know that you weren't that far involved in this. And so sometimes with that encouragement from loved ones, people really think about, this isn't worth my life to be doing all this time in jail for something I didn't do. And then so they end up telling their part, and that creates a process of elimination to allow for them to identify who's left in the case. And then before you know it, you're able to identify the actual ones that were up in the burner in the first place.
It's just a sad situation based around everything that was planned to take out Young Dolph. Somebody that was actually a benefit to their community. So with that, let's pay our respects and say rest in peace to Young Dolph. Condolences to his family and much love to all my folks in Dolphland. Again, to all my folks in Dolphland, I know y'all lost a real one out there. And it's hard to get those type of guys, especially with all this foolishness going on today. But it's real. Yo Gotti, Big Juke, and a little guard dog, Blac Youngsta, they already know it's only a matter of time before the walls close in on them. So with that, always be aware and always stay prepared. But hey, we got more in store. As always, y'all know what it is. Y'all know what it's worth. Let's get this merch. Subscribe to the PDH Network.